Good evening. On TV47 News tonight, hundreds of youth who participated in the Kazi Mtaani initiative cry foul as they have not received their dues. Also tonight, a 10-member committee to mediate the revenue share impasses in the Senate is yet to get down to business, even as Raila Odinga calls for selflessness. Plus, tonight we tell you why Madhioya Township has not recorded a case of teenage pregnancy since schools were closed, and the two men making sure that no student is missing out on virtual classes. And for the first time in 68 years, the Kikuyu initiation ceremony is postponed due to coronavirus fear. Tonight of all nights, Anne Wairimu is our sign language interpreter. TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi, begins right now. Good evening and welcome to the broadcast. Now, tonight, the Senate's ad hoc committee on COVID-19 has directed the Auditor General to conduct a special audit on how funds have been used by counties to fight the spread of the virus in the country. The committee wants the Office of the Auditor General to review expenditure and detect irregularities on the funds. Joash Onsare begins our broadcast tonight.
Senators have asked the Auditor General Nancy Gathongo to conduct an audit on how counties have so far spent funds allocated to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. The senators also want her to establish whether financial and non-financial reports on funds from the national government specific to COVID-19 were produced every month. She has also been instructed to establish the total amount of funds received by the county governments specific to COVID-19 activities, and to which bank accounts the monies were deposited by the national government. The Auditor General will also be at task to report back on any detected irregularities involving the misuse of public funds and identify related weaknesses in management controls. The committee also wants the Office of the Auditor General to review county government work plan, procurement plan on COVID-19 and the expenditure of funds, as well as financial and non-financial monthly reports. This coming in the wake of complaints on corruption allegation in the procurement of protective equipment PPEs. The Ministry of Health, however, saying that Kenya Medical Supplies Authority is in a better place to answer the queries on the purchases.
Even though we have the Procurement Act, that there are also provisions under circumstances such as the ones that we are going through now, which is a pandemic and an emergency, that there are certain flexibilities that particular law also allows. I would not want to get into what was done right and what was probably not done right, but I'm sure that we have the relevant oversight authorities.
Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, a section of youth enrolled into the Kazi Mtaani Phase 2 program have slammed the government for its failure to pay them despite promising to do so this week. The workers are now threatening to pull out from the program, even as ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru assures them that their payment is a matter of when and not if. David Mudhoka has the details.
They might be hiding some important stuff. Absolutely.
At Ongata Rongai, Kajiado County, we meet these two young men not so enjoying their sabbatical from the Phase 2 of the Kazi Mtaani program. The two await resumption to duty next week once the 11 days shift for another cohort currently on duty lapses. But sorrow is written all over their faces. One of them narrates how he is yet to get even a dime of his deserved pay after 2 weeks of tireless toil and moil under the Kazi Mtaani program.
Bado doa hazijaingia. Unaona? So tumekuwa tukifuatilia hizo pesa, tunaenda kwa dio. Kwanza tunaanzia kwa chief anatuma kwa dio. Tukifika kwa dio akaniomba details, nikawapea zote. After that wakaniambia niende pesa wataeka, so hadi for now sijaona pesa.
However, could Brian Mosaro be among youths? The State Department of Housing and Urban Development is yet to remit their wages due to money transfer problems caused by wrongfully registered phone numbers.
Hapana, kila kitu nilipeana kilikuwa correct. Hakuna kitu nikosea.
Phone number ina match na jina kwa ID.
Kila kitu kilikuwa sawa.
How about you?
Atambo Janai, a journalism graduate at Multimedia University and still unemployed, says he thought the moment he enrolled into Kazi Mtaani was the moment he bid his financial woes farewell. But the single cash transaction of barely 2,000 shillings from the National Hygiene Program has since dimmed his hopes. The government had announced that it would use a daily work for wages approach, with each worker set to pocket 455 shillings a day. This means for a period of 2 weeks, Atambo was expecting approximately 5,000 shillings as his pay. He says the cash he received is just but a paltry share of his expectations.
Mwanzo tulikuwa tumeambiwa kwamba tutakuwa tunalipwa shilingi 455 kwa siku moja. Kwa hivyo jumla ingetokea kuwa 5,000 na shilingi 5. Lakini sasa baada ya kumaliza kazi tuliweza kuambiwa kwamba tungelipwa wiki ambayo ingefuata, na wiki iliyofuata tukapata kwamba tumelipwa nusu ya zile fedha ambazo tulikuwa tumeidiwa na serikali.
ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru, however, insists that the government is hell-bent to ensuring that every youth enrolled into the Kazi Mtaani program gets their deserved pay. He cited a technical hitch as the reason behind the painful delay in cash payouts.
The country, the government means well for everybody. So this is something we're doing together. It's not something that the government is doing separate from working with the youth. So I encourage every young person to really come out and work together with us as government, because you are us. We're working together, and there's nobody who's trying to shortchange anyone, especially during this COVID period.
This is Environment CS Keriako Tobiko and Gender CS Margaret Kobia joined Musheru in launching the International Youth Week at Ongata Rongai on Thursday.
We need the youth to come and take the front line in working with us.
The launch is set to culminate into a National Youth Day on Wednesday next week. David Muthoka, TV47.
Thank you, David Muthoka, for that report. Moving on. Senate has formed a 10-member committee to mediate the ongoing revenue sharing standoff. The committee is expected to review the amendment to the House Committee on Finance and Budget. Majority Whip Irungu Kangata says there are 4 amendments already before the House. Our Parliamentary Affairs reporter Elizabeth Mutuku has the details.
The proposed 10-member committee team was arrived at after a meeting of House leadership on Wednesday. The committee proposed to be chaired by Deputy Speaker Professor Margaret Kamar and will seek to mediate the ongoing standoff. The mediation committee is expected to review and consolidate various amendments to the House Committee on Finance and Budget's third basis formula of sharing county revenue so as to explore a middle ground.
And they agree that they are going to form a small committee comprised of those who are supporting Mutula Kilonzo's option and those who are supporting the committee's option. So once 5 senators from each group are appointed, we shall then form a joint committee, look at the several options, and then come up with the best option that is going to serve Kenya. We want one Kenya, one united Senate. We want this stalemate to end.
The committee was expected to start its meeting on Thursday. Senate leadership says the decision was informed by realization among senators that their hardline position among them was not helping. The committee is comprised of senators opposed to the third generation formula and those in support to get a common ground.
From where I see it, supporters of Handshake have been very, very supporting of my cause in the Senate. I have seen them supporting all my motions. In fact, no single day have I seen core supporters of the Handshake going against all my motions whenever they have been brought before the Senate. In fact, were it not for their support, maybe we will not be at this stage. So for me, I'm very happy that the handshake has been very, very supportive of the cause. For those senators who have not been supporting our cause, it's very understandable.
This coming amidst complaints from governors over the delay in disbursement of funds in Uasin Gishu. Governor Jackson Mandego says his county is now crippled.
They should stop this casual business. You would treat counties as if they are small entities. We are a constitutional organization. If you combine the public servants serving in 47 counties, that's not a small number. Huwezi tuambia watu waenda wapambane na corona na wajalipa rent. Ninyi mnatupatia stress bwana. Hawa wafanyakazi wakigoma, wewe unataka niende niwaambie nini? Na watu ya national government wamelipa mshahara. Kwani pesa ya national government ya kulipa mshahara ilitoka wapi? Ya kulipa counties ilikuwa wapi? We cannot be struggling. Na wengine wanakaa huko hawataka kurelease pesa ya mshahara. Salary is not negotiable.
ODM leader Raila Odinga now says Senate should opt for a win-win formula, a position that was earlier taken by Deputy President William Ruto. However, a section of ANC MPs are now accusing Raila Odinga of derailing the revenue sharing formula solution.
By the fact that county governments who are recognized under the current constitution are being starved of resources and the operation negatively impacted. While we acknowledge that a formula based on the population is important, that's why we talk about 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. We also need to ensure that people from marginalized areas are not punished. We call on the leadership of the Senate, through the Speaker and the leader of majority and minority, to urgently convene a meeting with the key stakeholders that include the Treasury, Commission of Revenue Allocation, and the Council of Governors to meet and define a workable formula that is agreeable to all Kenyans.
Angaa kuona kiongozi ambaye tunaheshimu mzee Raila jana akikeuka kwa msimamo yake, kwani hakukuwa na advisor yoyote ambaye angeweza kumjulisha hii vile ambavyo inafaa kufanywa. Ndio sasa ameelewa nini ilikuwa inaendelea. Ni kama mtu kuamshwa kwa usingizi.
Elizabeth Motuko, TV47 Nairobi.
Moving on, the country has not reported a single imported COVID-19 case since international flights resumed. Health CAS Rashid Aman attributes this to stringent measures being observed before passengers are allowed into and out of the country. This even as the number of people who have recovered from the virus in the country have now surpassed the 10,000 mark. Mwangi Maina reports.
While addressing the country on the status of COVID-19 infections, Health CAS Dr. Rashid Aman said not a single case has been reported of travelers arriving into the country since international flights resumed.
We're definitely much more prepared in screening and determining who is able to enter this country, which is the reason why you see the list of countries from which passengers can arrive at JKIA keeps changing based on the risk level of those countries.
Aman attributing this to the measures put in place by the Health and Transport Ministries to ensure only COVID-19 free patients are allowed into the country. In the last 24 hours, 514 patients recovered from the virus, bringing the total recoveries to 10,444. At the same time, 538 new infections were reported, bringing the total number of cases to 24,411. After 6,195 samples were tested, the cumulative samples tested now stand at 335,318. Also in the last 24 hours, 8 patients lost the battle to COVID-19, bringing the total fatalities to 399.
Of these 8 patients, 6 of them had underlying conditions. Only 2 did not have any underlying condition. We want to send our sincere condolences to the families and friends of all Kenyans who, during this pandemic, have lost their loved ones.
Nairobi continues to lead with 277 cases reported Thursday, Kiambu 74 cases, Kajiado 55, Nakuru 25, Nyeri 20, Murang'a 15, Machakos 9, and Busia 8 cases. 26 counties recorded new COVID-19 cases on Thursday. With the surging numbers of infections on a daily basis, the country is still not yet out of the woods, and the rising number of deaths on a daily basis is a call to Kenyans to take seriously the measures put in place by the government to combat the spread of coronavirus. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, nurses in Kajiado County lit candles in remembrance of their colleague who passed away due to COVID-19. The nurses also said a prayer for the victims of the pandemic. They were holding a photo of the nurse who died last week in Homa Bay County. At least 10 healthcare workers have so far died due to the virus.
We decided today to take a moment with the rest of the nurses in the country to remember our colleague, Nurse Marion from Homa Bay County. And that is why we took this moment to come here together as a team and have a moment of silence. And also we have done a prayer and to candlelight to remember the young nurse who left us because of complications caused by COVID.
Ningependa kushukuru serikali yetu ya Kenya kwa sababu wameweza kutuletea PPEs, wameajiri wauguzi, lakini bado tuko na changamoto kidogo kwa sababu bado hatujatosha. Namba za COVID zinaendelea kwenda juu, so tungependa kuongezewa wauguzi zaidi na tungependa kupata quality PPEs.
May the nurses' soul and those who succumbed to the virus in all rest in peace. You are watching TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Time for us to take a short break. We still have a lot lined up for you. We'll be back with much news after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Thank you for staying with us. Now, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has decried lack of funds as one of the factors which has contributed to poor infrastructure to accommodate students and pupils during this COVID-19 pandemic. Hence, the push to reopen schools next year. Appearing before the Education Committee chaired by Busia Woman Rep Florence Mutua, Professor Magoha has rubbished calls by some members of parliament to have Standard 8 candidates and their Form 4 colleagues to sit for their national examinations.
say that this is not the ministry's responsibility. It is everybody's responsibility. It's the whole government, one government responsibility. And therefore, we shall require even your own support to increase the amount that is required, because this is the time we need the money. Your good selves voted and applied certain monies for infrastructure. And as far as we are concerned, that money is not enough. Nevertheless, we are not going to sit and moan about it. We are going to do what we can with the money that was given. There was a stimulus package which we thank government for, which is relating to certain specific aspects, like desks in high schools and primary schools, and we appreciate that. And what we are going to do, what we intend to do as far as the desks are concerned, that we are going to decentralize to avoid corruption that is usually associated with centralizing such processes. And the desks will be manufactured, they'll be made at the sub-county level, where our officers and your good selves can also help us to ensure that each school has a certain number of desks.
And we do, why is it impossible to have standard 8s and Form 4s actually sit an exam? Because they're going to sit, you can adjust the examination to cover, to factor in that they missed 2 terms. Then they cover the 3.5 years Form 4 high school students had covered, or the 7.5 years or 7 years that the primary school students had covered. Then all the other classes can transition and adjust their syllabuses next year to factor in the years the months that they were not in school. It seems a bit it seems a bit excessive that we have scrapped an entire academic year. Are we thinking about the mental health of all those children who are going to have to repeat a class?
Still on matters education, a chief and his assistant in Othaya Township, Nyeri County, are the talk of town for their role in public administration. They have taken up the responsibility of distributing school resource materials to students who cannot access virtual learning in their area of administration. Muhammad Ali now reports.
The school calendar of this year will be considered lost due to COVID-19.
This is the statement that left students and parents in confusion, as it made some schools continue with the online classes, while others suspended the virtual learning due to various challenges. A physics lesson on the relationship between mass and weight is ongoing at Stella Maris Girls Secondary School in Othaya. But Angela Ngatia, a Form 2 student, is not participating since she does not have a smartphone or a laptop to enable her to join her classmates. Angela is at home waiting for the local administration to bring her learning materials. Othaya Township Senior Chief Stephen Githaiga and his assistant have collaborated with Stella Maris Secondary School and initiated a program where they distribute textbooks and revision papers to students who cannot access virtual learning.
When our girls left in March and we started the online lessons, we realized that some students from the neighborhood were not attending, and when we investigated, we established that they did not have internet connectivities in their homes, and they did not have smartphones, and some did not have even laptops. And data bundles were a challenge, especially those from Harbour background. And therefore, we took the initiative to liaise with the area chiefs.
This is my local school, and huwa natembea hapa mara kwa mara nikija kuchukua revision papers za wanafunzi wa kidato cha kwanza mpaka kidato cha 4, wale ambao wako kule manyumbani in the community ambao hawezi kulog in into the internet. Yes.
The chief and his assistant pick up textbook and revision papers from the school and distribute them to students who cannot access the online classes, an initiative that has helped students like Angela keep up with their colleagues, thus ensuring students from humble backgrounds are not left behind.
Our teachers, as they taught online, they were also able to prepare hard copies, which were picked by the chiefs and taken to their respective homes. Even the assignments, when they are brought back, because the teachers are still teaching online. They mark for the learners. Same case to the textbooks. They are got from the schools, taken by the chiefs and our non-teaching staff to the neighboring students who come from the neighboring community. And they are able to be assisted because they are not losing so much the way they could have lost if we did not actually engage them.
The rise of teenage pregnancies has been a major fear among parents after the closure of schools due to COVID-19. But in Othaya Township, the efforts of the area chief and his assistant has helped in preventing the increase of teenage pregnancies there. Not a single case has been reported.
We also take the textbooks to them, which assist now those students to continue learning at home, thus making them busy and keeping them engaged. This prevents the students from loitering around and having a lot of free time. And this is actually assisting the students, and it is a way that is containing the students at home, therefore preventing the serious problem we have on teenage pregnancies.
We are able to keep them at home, and therefore we are sure that they are safe from social challenges that are happening to teenage girls at this moment.
Angela's mother, Tabitha Wanja, says since the program started, her daughter has been committed and she does not have time to engage in social vices that can lead to teenage pregnancies.
Toka sub-chief wetu na chief wao akiletea mtoto makaratasi ya revision na vitabu, amekuwa busy sana, kwa hivyo hapati muda wa kutokea nje, huwa anajicommit kwa makaratasi yake kusoma revision. Sasa naona hiyo ni vizuri sana, sababu tunaona watoto wenye wako idle mtaani, kuna teenage pregnancies nyingi zinatokea, lakini huyu mtoto naona akiwa kwa vitabu at least mind zake haziko idle, so anajicommit huko na naona at least akifanya vizuri.
And thanks to the selflessness of a chief and his assistant, the fear of students like Angela has been alleviated. Their main concern now is not being left behind by their classmates who can study virtually.
Na nimefurahia kuletea hizi vitabu kwa sababu zitanisaidia juu siwezangi kutumia hizi simu online, sijui. Sasa nimefurahia kupata hizi vitabu, najua zitanisaidia.
Othaya Township Chief and his assistant do not only pride themselves in making the students equal, they have also proved to be protectors of the students' dreams and aspirations. Mohammed Ali, TV47.
Indeed, they are chiefs of substance. No case of pregnancy, administering education at their administration. A noble act indeed. Elsewhere, as the world marks the annual Breastfeeding Week, breastfeeding has become a blessing in disguise to some extent for mothers working from home. And with the emergence of the highly dreaded COVID-19 pandemic globally, breastfeeding is still and remains the best meal nourishment for suckling babies. Nanok Lorraine reports.
Smiles and joy comes to many mothers who bring forth a bundle of joy, and right after breast milk becomes their first source of nourishment. The World Health Organization recommends mothers worldwide to exclusively breastfeed infants for the child's first 6 months to achieve optimal growth, development and health. Unfortunately, not all mothers get the opportunity to breastfeed their babies due to different conditions. In such cases, alternative ways such as wet nursing can be embraced. A noble example is of one Doreen Mulinya, who after giving birth 6 hours after her sister-in-law, took the brave step to wet nurse her niece after the mother developed stomach cancer complications, which then deprived her of enough milk to feed her baby.
I had a lot of milk at that time. I was breastfeeding her. But on the other hand, she did not have enough milk. It reached a time that she did not have any milk. Totally. I decided to try and breastfeed the child. I breastfed her for like 1.5 months, but that was long enough to help her gain back her the weight.
She says those volunteering to wet nurse need to undergo several tests to ascertain the safety of their breast milk, and if another chance avails itself, she will gladly grab it to save a smile.
I would, because when I'm breastfeeding, I usually have excess milk. I'm that healthy. So I would not mind. Being that I'm also a mother, I know the benefit of breast milk to a child.
With the emergence of the novel coronavirus, many lactating mothers have become skeptical of how safe their breast milk is to their newborns. And to mothers who are tasked with handling COVID-19 patients have been called upon to practice the highest form of personal hygiene before beginning to breastfeed.
It is considered to be safe to breastfeed your baby through the period, through the pandemic. If a mother is found to be COVID-19 positive, she should wear a mask when breastfeeding her baby, maintain hygiene, wash hands, sanitize, wash hands, and still breastfeed as normal.
With this year's theme being Support Breastfeeding for a Healthier Planet, lactating mothers have been urged to carry on with the task because in it comes a ton of benefits to both them and their young ones.
Babies who are breastfed are healthier in terms of they suffer less diseases and infections, so they have less hospitalization and places a much less strain on the medical system. It reduces the chances of a mother getting cervical cancer and breast cancer in future, and so that means that mother is healthier.
Nanok Lauren, TV 47.
Now, the annual initiation ceremony conducted by the Kikuyu Council of Elders has been postponed due to the outbreak of COVID-19. The decision was reached after consultations with Health CS. Mutahi Kagwe, Mwangi Maina reports.
The decision to postpone the Kikuyu's cultural initiation ceremony was made after consultations with the Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe.
But in the interest of public accountability, we should postpone today's circumcision as far as the Kikuyu culture is concerned.
The government, through the Ministry of Health, has called on community leaders to hold such events until the COVID-19 curve is flattened. The last time such a ceremony was postponed was 68 years ago, during the state of emergency.
In 1918, the circumcision was postponed because our sons had been with the British Army in the First World War.
Bukusu elders have vowed not to hold the ceremony, which is scheduled for this month. Kiama National Vice Chairman Michael Njoroge Mogo said that they will start counseling boys and girls virtually to ensure they curb teenage pregnancies.
Thank you, Mwangi Maina, for that report. The first postponement in 68 years, the last happened in 1959. Indeed, COVID-19 has punctured, among other things, the rights for boys to graduate to men. You're watching TV 47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Time for us to take another short break. We'll be back with much news after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakr Abdullahi. Thank you for staying with us. Let's get to Eldoret. For the second day running, residents and traders in Eldoret town, Uasin Gishu County, are counting losses following massive destruction of their property occasioned by heavy rains. And as our reporter Calvin Chitwa now reports, the destruction has been blamed on poor town planning.
A familiar sight in most business premises along many major roads in Eldoret town and the estates within the neighborhood as heavy rains continue to pound the area.
Duka zaidi ya 20. Stoko zote ziko ndani. Kuna mzee anafanya biashara ya unga na sukari. Vitu ya duka zote zimeroa maji.
The traders have faulted the county's Department of Urban Planning for not putting in place necessary measures to solve the perennial challenge of floods occasioned by poor drainage.
Kuna barriers mingi, watu walichenga kwa service line. Na service line ikiwa interfere ndio imetumwakia maji sasa. Indakana tungeomba hata kesho kama wangeweza wakuja watufungulie service line. Hii maji hatungekuwa na maji hapa. But because of blockage, kuna watu engineers walikubali service line ijengwe Calabat. Tukienda nyuma ya Komvi, tukienda nyuma ya Ketias, wamechenga Calabat. Na yote sasa ndio inatufungulia maji. So tungeomba county government with immediate effect kesho wakuja watusaidie.
Affected traders are now pushing for compensation by the county government for their losses.
Tunakuanga na pesa ya disasters. Waangaliwe kwa sababu wameumia sana over 6 years. Raise complaint every now and then, and this is the time we want to see our county government kama wata compensate our tenants. Watu wengi machines yao, spare parts ya motorbikes, printing machines zimeharibika.
Transport within the town was also affected, leading to heavy traffic jam. Calvin Chitwa, TV47, Uasin Gishu County.
From Eldoret, let's get to Naivasha, where residents of Naivasha, although grateful for development projects in the lakeside town, have faulted the manner in which some aspects of the construction work is being executed. The residents have specifically taken an issue with the renaming of various roads and physical features in Naivasha without subjecting the process to public participation. Willie Dennis Njiru has the details.
In the past few months, it has been glamour to the streets of Naivasha town, but also to the trunk road that cuts across it. This brought about by the construction and repairs of roads in the town under the watch of the county government of Nakuru, funded by the World Bank. But there has arisen a little agitation in some of the works the town going.
It's only in Naivasha. Barabara huwa inaondokea nyumba, sewer line na drainage system zinakaa chini ya nyumba.
This culvert has been the recent talk of town, where a residential structure sits on it, despite of other similar buildings having been brought down to pave way for construction.
Mimi ningeulizwa hiyo ingekatwa tu kidogo, alafu hiyo drainage iwe free. Hata mtu akitaka kusafisha anaisafisha bila culvert.
This contractor says this was the best he could do for the moment.
World Bank walisema usipunguze kitu ya mtu. Ni akili yako yote ukujua kuja kuexpress watu. Unataka kuweka mtu bila alikuwa.
Engineer mwenyewe mwenye anajenga anakuambia anaguza kichwa ati uone mvi. Yeye ni mzee na alienda shule, lakini unamuuliza ukweli wa mambo, drainage inaweza pitia chini ya nyumba.
Locals nostalgic over the naming of the newly constructed streets, stating that they were never consulted.
Tena tunasikia kuna barabara zingine wanataka kupea majina zingine. Watu hawajakaa chini, watu hawajaulizwa ni nini inaweza itwa nini.
Further outwards is the Karati River along the Naivasha-Nakuru highway, whose name has been renamed to River Delamere by unknown persons.
Kutoka source mpaka hapa katikati bado inaitwa Karate. Ilipofika hapa kwa highway ya Nakuru, kutoka highway ya Nairobi Nakuru, ikabadilishwa ikaitwa River Delamere.
After these pictures went viral on social media platforms, unknown persons plucked the signage off. Justus Wamboa is a herdsman and witnessed it all.
Walikuja juzi wakaweka signboard hapo kwa barabara. Sasa
kuweka hiyo signboard. Leo tena wakakuja tena wakang'oa, tukashindwa kwani kunaenda aje hapa kwa barabara.
And they have one pertinent request to the authority.
Mwenye kutoa tenda ya hizo kivubao alipeana tenda ya pesa gapi? Na kama ilitumika kwa nini imeng'olewa?
There is a provision in our constitution about public participation in everything that you want to do in a certain area.
To maintain hayo majina ambayo tulipata katika hizi mito, na kama ni kuweka hizo signboard, tuweke majina kamili ya hizi mito.
Reporting for TV47 from Naivasha in Nakuru County, I'm Willie Dennis Njiru.
Now, a 10-year court case delay in Homa Bay County has led to a peace deal between two fighting factions of the Legion Maria Church in Homa Bay County. The factions decided to put their differences aside to allow for the appointment of a new bishop of the church.
Long case which has dogged the Legion Maria is that since we have a new case where I'm sued, what I would like to say to the entire Christians of Legion Maria is that we should keep peace until it reaches times that this case will be determined and the bona fide or the new pope will be decided by the court. Is when now we'll know who to rely behind as a leader of Legion Maria. But at the moment, we're still looking forward for the court to help us to determine who's the legitimate pope.
I wish to report that the matter before the court, which was filed in the year 2009 by Pope Raphael Adika against the late Pope Romanus Ongombe, has come to an end. As you are quite aware that the matter was scheduled for mention today for purposes of confirmation of whether the parties are ready to proceed with the matter or want to withdraw the same. Both the two camps have to date, that is the advocates of the two camps, that is the advocate for Omondi, advocate for Raphael Adika, and myself, the advocate for the late Romanus Ongombe, today agreed to withdraw the two cases which have been pending in court for the last 10 years.
As a church and as a leader of this county, I want to all members, all clergy of the Legion Maria to make a peace, to go with our prayers with peace.
Let's cross borders and get to Rwanda, where Rwanda on Wednesday registered another decline in the number of new COVID-19 cases, a trend that is now promising in as far as the country's cases are concerned. Our reporter Diana Iriza reports from Kigali, Rwanda.
So yesterday, the 5th of August, the country registered 5 new positive COVID-19 cases, bringing the total number of positive 19 cases to 2,104. 15 recoveries, bringing the total number of recoveries to 2,137. From 69 new cases on July 29th, the number of new cases has been declining. There were 7 on August 4th and 30 on August 3rd. This also reduces the number of active cases, now standing at 862. Two key events that the public may particularly pay attention to is the churches which were opened 2 weeks ago on several conditions. Another is the reopening of commercial flights since August 1st. Rwanda aviation officials confirmed the country's ability and determination to assure the safety of passengers. Rwandair, which is the national carrier, and Qatar Airways are already in action, with the latter announcing 3 trips to Rwanda per week. Meanwhile, of the 5 new cases, 4 were registered in Kigali and 1 in Nyagatare, eastern province of Rwanda. The Rwandan general public is however being advised to stay vigilant by avoiding unnecessary movement, wear the mask at all times, and also practice social distancing. Diana Iriza, Kigali, Rwanda.
Thank you, our reporter Diana Iriza from Kigali, Rwanda. You're watching TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Time for us to take another short break. When we come back, we'll get to the world of sports. Stay tuned. As an Arsenal fan, I'll also ask that. Nonetheless, that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of TV47 News Tonight. With me, Abu Bakr Abdullahi, on behalf of the entire team that made this production possible. Bye for now. Enjoy the rest of our programs, but I leave you with the weather updates. We value your feedback.